There's a strange feeling a lot of people have right now. And I'm not talking about depression, not even sadness. It's this feeling of nothing, right? You wake up, you go through your day, maybe you go to work, you interact with people, you go home, you eat, you scroll, you distract yourself. And from the outside, everything looks fine. But underneath all of it, something feels off. Not broken, just empty. And you really can't explain it. So you call it burnout. You call it boredom. You call it a lack of motivation. But what if that's not it? What if it's not about you being tired? What if it's about you being disconnected? Disconnected from yourself, from meaning, from something deeper that used to make life feel real. And to understand all of this, guys, we have to look at some of the greatest thinkers of psychology and philosophy that have already talked about this. They have already proposed solutions to modern day problems. And I'm talking about thinkers like Carl Jung, Nietzsche, Erich Fromm, Viktor Frankl. Looking at my notes here, guys, I want to first discuss what's really happening inside of you. And to understand that, we have to dive into the work of the great Carl Jung. He was a Swiss psychiatrist focused on the unconscious. He was focused on identity and the deeper structure of your psyche. He believed that when people lose contact with their inner world, they begin to feel empty, restless, and divided. You see, Jung's core idea was that he believed that modern people are externally developed, of course, but internally they are disconnected. You see, you can be functional, you can be socially adapted, you can be successful on the surface, you can have all the trophies, you can have all the luxury goods, but inside you still feel nothing. This isn't a life problem, it's a self problem. Let's talk about the persona, the mask that you wear in society, right? Jung's work focused heavily on the persona, and he said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung meant that most people never become who they really are. They become what is acceptable, right? People are living for social validation. They become what their parents require. They become what their teachers require, what their employer requires, what their friends require them to be. You build a persona, you build a mask to function in society, but over time, that mask becomes your identity. You see, you learn how to be accepted, not how to be real. And that's the problem, because Jung didn't just talk about the mask, he asked a deeper question. If this is the version of you that's accepted, right? Then what happened to the version of you that isn't accepted, right? What happened to the parts of you that you don't show to the world? What happened to that, right? And this is where Jung's work focuses on the shadow, what he calls the buried self. And he quotes, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the parts of yourself that are hidden, until you make the parts of yourself that you suppressed, maybe even repressed, until you make them seen, until you shine a light on them, right? Those parts of your life will control your life, right? And you will say, oh, this is just fate. But that's not true, guys, because look, Carl Jung meant that rejected parts of you don't disappear. They go into the shadow. And the shadow, like I said, is everything that you were taught to suppress, not just darkness, but power, ambition, intensity, your sexual animalistic instincts, the emotional truth that you feel at times, the anger that you have, right? This drive for life, you even suppress that without a doubt. And you didn't remove these parts, you just buried them. And this is what creates that feeling of emptiness within you, is that when you bury parts of yourself, you lose that zest for life. You lose that energy, you lose that direction, you lose that aliveness. This is what Carl Jung calls the unlived life, right? Jung points to something deeper. You see, the feeling of a life not fully lived, it's you not living to your highest potential. It's you not developing discipline. It's you not expressing that depth that you have within yourself. And you can feel the life that you're not living. You can feel that you're not your authentic self, that you're putting on a show for the world. You can feel that, whether it's conscious or not, right? You can still feel it. Maybe it's subconscious, but deep down you know. And emptiness is the weight that you're feeling, right? That feeling of nothingness is the weight you're feeling of the life that you're not living. And so this is where Carl Jung's idea of fragmentation comes in, right? This is the core problem, that now you're split between your persona and your shadow, right? You're split between who you really are and who you're taught to be, or what you're accepted, right, to be out there in the world. That's the fragmentation, right? Because you show the world one thing, but deep down you know that you can be something completely different because you have so much within you, right? You're not empty, you're divided. And this is Carl Jung's main thesis on why you feel empty, and Carl Jung shows us the internal problem, but let's zoom out for a little bit and let's focus on the emptiness that's coming from the world itself, because there is also that aspect too that we have to think about. And this is where the great Nietzsche comes in. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher who studied meaning, he studied values, suffering, and nihilism, which I'll talk about. He saw that modern society was losing its sense of higher purpose. You see, Nietzsche's core idea, in relating to this video at least, was that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Let me repeat that one more time. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche meant that humans can endure anything if they have a reason, if they have a purpose, if they have that why. Why am I here? Why am I living? Right? What's my purpose? If they have that, they can go through any struggle. They can go through any hardship. They can go through any situation where it's pain, right? Or it's suffering. They can go through that because they have that reason to live, And modern life, to be honest, has weakened that reason. Nietzsche warned that when meaning collapses, people don't become free, they become lost. And this condition has a name. It's called nihilism, right? Nihilism is not just a philosophy, it's a lived experience. You see, nihilism ties directly with loss of purpose, and you feel like there's no higher aim to life. You feel like there's no reason to struggle, no meaningful direction. And you feel like you have things to do, but really nothing to live for. And so the result is flat emotions, right? Existential boredom. You may even have some existential angst. Like, why am I here? What's my purpose in life? And life is flying by and you still haven't done anything. You're 40, you're 50, right? And life had no meaning. You may even experience low urgency to want to do the things that could change your life, right? Because now that why, it's just not there, right? That's what Nietzsche's trying to say, that you got to have that why to your life, right? And instead of solving the loss of meaning, modern society replaced it with something else. That's the problem, right? And this is where we get into Erich Fromm, because Erich Fromm, he talked about having versus being. You see, Erich Fromm was a social psychologist who studied modern society. Check out some of his clips on YouTube, man. He really goes deep. And he talks about identity and he talks about human fulfillment. Very important, especially with the times that we're going through right now. So his core idea was having versus being. Fromm said that if I am what I have, who am I if I lose it? That's very deep. You see, Erich Fromm divided life into two modes, having and being. So having is ownership, consumption, external validation, right? It's the car in the driveway. It's the, corner house, the big house. It's the Ralph Lauren clothes. It's the closet, right? All because you want to be accepted by, society. You want to be accepted into that status group, right? You want to be accepted by your friends and peers and your coworkers, right? That's the having aspect. But the being, right? No one really talks about the being anymore, right? What is being? Being is that presence. Being is that depth. your character, who you really are within, right? That aliveness, that's what being really is. And modern life, to be honest, trains you to have, not to be, right? Because this is the thing. When you live life in having mode, you start chasing more instead of becoming more. That's the problem, right? We're stuck in a consumption loop. It's all about, everywhere you look, it's all about shop this, buy this, marketing ads in your face, right? Scrolling, content, dopamine spikes, validation, likes. Likes is a new currency. Attention is a new currency, right? We're always consuming, we're never becoming. And you see, modern life is now giving us replacements to reality, to substance. What do I mean by that? Instead of real intimacy, pornography has taken over. Instead of wisdom of the ages, now we have content, right? Instead of having purpose and meaning and, that why to live, now we just have constant stimulation with TV, video games, the internet, social media, right? We're full of input, but we're empty of substance. And that's the problem in modern society, right? And so the result is now we're overstimulated, we're underdeveloped psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally, we're empty, right? This is where that emptiness comes from, because you have more, you have a lot now. Amazon Prime now, you can get anything you want right now, but we just don't feel like we used to. We're out of touch with our emotions. We're numb. When you combine all of this, this is where it leads, and it leads to Viktor Frankl, right? Viktor Frankl, an amazing, amazing psychiatrist, right? Who focused on meaning as the core human need. You see, Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Holocaust, right? If you read his great book, Man's Search for Meaning, he tells you his story, but also, one thing that he realized in the concentration camps is that, the soldiers could do anything externally, right? They could harm, they could torture, they could kill, obviously. But one thing that these soldiers could not do was impact a man's thought, a man's meaning, right? And man had that freedom to choose his meaning regardless of his external circumstances, regardless of wherever he was. Even in the concentration camp, a man could choose, his meaning in life. He could choose his thought. He could choose what he focused on. He could choose all of that, right? He had that freedom. And that's what Viktor Frankl's major, realization, his epiphany was. And so his core idea, he said even more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. And Frankl meant that emptiness is not caused by a lack of activity, it's caused by a lack of meaning. And so this is where the existential vacuum comes from, right? It's this feeling of inner emptiness. It's this feeling of directionlessness, right? It's this emotional flatness that we've been talking about. And you see, you can try to escape this. You can try to cover it up with pleasure, right? With the drugs and the sex and the alcohol and the parties on the weekends. You can try to escape all of that, right? You can do it by distraction, by being distracted by, what's happening online, by the news, by the media, or by busyness, right? People are just going to work, doing. But how many people are actually focused on living life with purpose or meaning? Not that many, right? You see, you can't distract your way into meaning. You can't distract your way into purpose. And so now, if you're wondering, okay, what's the solution to this? I've already given you the solution, but if you want me to lay it all out, let me do it one last time. You see, if we go back to Jung's solution would be to integrate, right? Jung would say, drop the mask and face the shadow, right? Forget living for other people. Bring up parts of you that you have buried within, those suppressed and repressed parts of you. Face them, right? It's going to be painful. Those traumatic, experiences, childhood memories, emotions that you don't express anymore. Face all of that and be honest with yourself, right? You become whole by being real. If we go back to Nietzsche's going to say, create meaning, right? Choose a why. Commit to something real. That's the problem. We don't commit to anything anymore. That's why people don't even have relationships anymore, marriages anymore. Everything is failing. The family system is failing because people are not committing to that why, to something real anymore, right? This illusion of endless options will never let you commit. That's why you got to take a stand. You got to choose a why, right? Fromm would say, stop consuming, because that's the agenda of the social engineers, is to just push things on you, spend your money, right? Just buy things to fill this emotional void that's never going to be filled from consumption, right? So Fromm would say, stop scrolling, stop buying, stop chasing these dopamine spikes and start living, start creating, start facing reality. That's the main thing. No one wants to face reality. Everyone wants to escape reality, right? Face the suffering of life, right? And that's where Frankl would come. Frankl would say, live with purpose, accept the struggle, accept that things are not going to go your way, accept that, yeah, there's going to be grief, there's going to be trauma, you're going to lose people, you're going to lose your parents, go through life like a human being, not a machine. Because right now with this whole AI stuff coming, right, they're training us to be like machines now. Now even AI is thinking for us rather than us thinking for ourselves, right? That's what this problem is only going to grow. That's why we have to visit and we have to go back into history, look at these thinkers and see what they discussed, and bring this information to light. And this is the message, guys. This is the message that needs to be spread. That's what I'm saying. Like, guys, if you're watching this video, share this with someone that you feel like could really use this information, because this is that information that could change your life potentially, right? Study the works of the greats like Carl Jung, right? Nietzsche, Fromm. Read these people because they have already predicted this stuff. They predicted this stuff years ago. But guys, this is my message for today. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this topic. But if you found meaning in today's episode, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for a lot more content, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Much love. Peace.